to kind of reminisce, a little bit about, how wonderful and beautiful, right, the country and, South Africa is. And more importantly, I always believe that Cape Town, where you live, is actually one of those few design cities in the world. So we have the likes of Cape Town, right? Montreal in Canada, and a few others around the world. But those cities are also inundated with a lot of, social challenges, which you eloquently, described in your presentation. And my first question to you is, when you look at settlements like Kailashia, Guguletu, and a few of all those other places in Cape Town, the Cape Flats and places like Athlone, post apartheid, how will you compare, right, the growth and the development, especially with reference to, the mechanical tree project, that you created? Will you say there's a remarkable, improvement, right? From 1994, right? To this date, and what is the states? Just give us a quick update on what's the state of places like Guguletu and Kailashia.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, very
Okay.
well.
Okay. I'm never sure whether I'm muted or unmuted. No, look. I mean, I think that the South African city is in a better shape today than it was during the years of apartheid. Okay. But the advent of a constitutional democracy and wild, rash promises made by politicians has led to a very unrealistic set of expectations amongst the poor. For example, our government has done an incredible amount of work in providing, for example, housing. In the last 15 years, we've built 3.5 million houses, which have been given to poor people for nothing. They don't pay for it. It's a social house. They get the title deeds once they occupy the house, and it belongs to them. The only condition is they can't sell it for a certain period of time. In addition to that, we've serviced another 1.5 million sites. Okay, so there's been, I don't know any country in the world with a population of ours has proportionately produced as many houses over a similar period of time. But it's just not enough. Everyone wants a house. And now the provision of a house by the state is seen as a social, as a right, as a political right. So we're now going through a very difficult period of time where the economy is not as strong as it was. The government doesn't have as much money because it's not collecting as much tax, and it's not able actually to build houses for everyone. It's not going to be possible. And this is now building up increasing pressure within these areas. And it's a very difficult period of time we're living through. So, in a way, I think what we need in South Africa is a good but strong government to just hold the space for another 10, 15 years, so we can really put in place the kind of measures we need to get our country on the right path. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. But the one thing that I've always had a problem with my government is that I don't believe there's much value in building a little 40 square meter box for a family and giving it to them for free, because it's no measure of what they need. And I've always argued that the cost of that house, which is, say, 100,000 Rand, should be given to the family as a capital investment. Just do with it as you see fit. And if we'd done that and multiplied that 100,000 Rand by 3.5 million houses, we'd be a very rich country today. But our government, which is paternalistic like all governments are, says that we can't trust the people to spend the money properly. Well, my view is that people are free. They choose how they want to spend it. And if they want to burn the money, let them burn the money. It's their right as free citizens. So we still, South Africa, we just need a little bit more time. We're still struggling to find our feet. But what is lovely, what is wonderful about our cities is our cities are now multidimensional. They are non-racial. People have access to every space. It doesn't matter what income group you come from or what racial group you come from. You have access to all the spaces of the city. And our cities are now, for the first time ever, really working as proper cities where people feel they have a right to use the streets and the pavements, which is great.
That's really lovely to hear, Joe. So far we've had a few comments and questions in the comment section. So Christopher Lowe, mentioned wonderfully thoughtful presentation showcasing your socially aware, equitable environmental design. Very commendable. That's Christian Lowe. And he followed that up with the fact that against what appear to be problems of daunting scale, would love to hear your view on the positive impact of your design work and the effects of this work to help lift up those who are struggling and underprivileged. In other words, the positive social impact you have achieved. Would you like to actually mention something about that?
Well, yes. Look, Christopher, thank you for your very kind comments. No, the thing that I would say is that a lot of the work that I've shown you, although we've built a hell of a lot of the work I've shown you has been what could one call it? It's been speculative in the sense it's been funded by, in the case of, for example, the Table House was funded by the Deutsche Bank, by the Herr Hassan Foundation. And in terms of mechanical tree, it was funded by the Maxi National Museum. There's been a huge amount of interest, but what we have in South Africa amongst our people, and it's a complex way of, I'm